Hi, this is Anna Hacken from Green Talk, and today I have a really special guest. I have Greg Spencer with me. He is the founder of, or co-founder of the Paradigm Project. And one of the reasons why I wanted Greg on the show is that what they're doing is phenomenal. They're helping indigent women with providing them with stoves so they're able to cook rather than having carry firewood on their back for miles and miles and miles. But, let me let Greg tell you the story because I was just so fascinated when their PR person contacted me because this is one of those feel-good stories. So, Greg, tell me a little bit about the Paradigm Project. And first, why is it called the Paradigm Project?
Yeah, it's a great question. We actually talked a lot about the name and the brand and what kind of statement we wanted to make. And, there's a lot of, Paradigm is just an everyday kind of occurrence. It's just the way that things are. And for many people in the world, especially in the developing world, they go through a lot of negative paradigms just for everyday things in life. And so we named it the Paradigm Project because we wanted to reverse negative paradigms. So that's kind of the genesis of the name. The Paradigm Project is a social enterprise. It's kind of a hybrid. We don't really fit into too many boxes. We kind of sit in between a lot of them. And that we're not a pure for-profit company, but we're not a pure non-profit company. We're a social enterprise, so we want to advance a social good, but we also want to be sustainable as an organization. So we can make enough money to sustain the work that we're doing.
So tell me a little about the work that you do.
Yeah, so it was basically in response to a pretty serious problem that's actually largely under people's radar. Half the world cooks over an open fire for every meal, 3 billion people, just a campfire like you would when you're roasting marshmallows out on a weekend. But when you're doing that 3 times a day, every day, there are some huge social, health, and environmental ramifications to that. Especially, for women in the hut that are cooking, it's the equivalent of smoking 40 cigarettes a day. And when you think about their little kids being in there with them. According to the World Health Organization, indoor air pollution is actually the #1 killer of children under 5, which is people just don't really know about that more than malaria, more than, drinking dirty water. So it's basically in response to how can we bring cleaner burning technology to communities who are cooking over open fires and reduce their need for wood and just create a cleaner burning environment in the kitchen for women. And how do we do that in a sustainable way? And so we brought together investors and donors to fund our first project in Kenya. And basically the way that we make it sustainable and that we're not always going back to donors is that we tap into the carbon markets. We create carbon offsets by reducing the amount of smoke and greenhouse gas emissions that those open fires are emitting and sell that to somebody like Google who wants to reduce their carbon footprint. So that's kind of it in a nutshell, but it's really how do we sustainably address this need that half the world is experiencing.
Wow, do I have a lot of questions? Yeah, that's a first. How did you guys come up with this idea? I mean, what was the epiphany?
For me, my dad and I went to Uganda in 2008 with an organization called Food for the Hungry. And they're doing some incredible work to transform communities and partner with communities on the environmental side, on the health side, economic development side. And we really wanted to support them. And I was only a year out of college, but my dad had built this carbon offset business in the States, basically industrial type greenhouse gas offset projects. And there's, was over $100 billion in value every year in the carbon markets. And he was trying to think of how can I connect all that value to the work that Food for the Hungry is doing in Uganda. And basically, how do we, create a business model or something that can tap them into those carbon markets? So, it was basically on this organization's doing great work, but they're not sustainable. They're constantly having to go back to donors. And so how can we use these, commercial markets to create sustainability? So we didn't necessarily know what the tool was going to be until we started doing more research and finding out just the social problems, the environmental problems around cooking with biomass and cooking over open fires. And so then we started doing research on stoves and really trying to figure out what are the right stoves for communities. We did a lot of focus groups. So it's basically knowing that we wanted to support development work with the carbon markets. And then we kind of found the improved cooking stoves after that as the tool to do that.
Okay, let's go right to the stove, because that's one of my many questions. Hold on one second. Let me get to I have this on a PowerPoint, so everybody bear with me just a little bit.
Okay.
But I have in front of me the picture. No. I'm moving the actual video, not the picture. I have in front of me a picture of the stove. How did you find this stove? I mean, is it somebody making this stove for you? Did you guys tweak it? Tell me a little bit about the stove.
Yeah, well, as a Paradigm project, we're not looking for one stove technology that we're going to push on communities. We basically take the stance of, how do we build a great consumer products company in a country and develop a line of products so that consumers have choice. So we did extensive focus group testing in Kenya, in rural, peri-urban, urban areas, and with 10 different stoves, and then just started narrowing it down from there. So the two stoves that we have right now, and we're working on adding more to that product line. But the stoves that we have right now, the first one is called EnviroFit. It's called the G3300 model. It's a great manufacturer. They're based out of Fort Collins in Colorado, and
Greg,
it was just
probably because
yes.
you can't see what I'm looking at. Is that the one that the picture where it looks like there's a bowl on top and the wood goes from the bottom? Is that the one we're talking about?
Yes,
okay.
Yes, on the website.
Okay.
On the website where it says why stoves. That's the EnviroFit G3300.
Okay, because I have a picture from your PR person. I just want to make sure it's the same one that we're talking about. It's kind of red on the bottom, and wood goes in the bottom.
Yeah, so both the stoves use wood.
Okay.
They're wood-burning stoves, but it's all about creating cleaner combustion and greater fuel efficiency.
Okay.
Because the problem with open fires is that you're not getting good heat transfer and you're not burning the wood cleanly. And so that's what creates the really dirty environment that's the equivalent of smoking 40 cigarettes. So both these stoves, they perform pretty similarly, but it creates in the combustion chamber cleaner combustion, so you're not getting as much smoke and soot, and it concentrates the fire and directs it towards the pot instead of out into the room, which allows you to use less wood.
So this is mostly like no different with somebody cooking on top of a stovetop. You're limited to, it's not like an oven. It's more of it's all a stovetop type appliance, right?
Exactly.
And
yes.
What does one of these cost?
The local stove that's manufactured by a group of guys in Kenya. We have a couple different manufacturers actually. That's called the Jiko Poa. That retails for about $14 US, and the EnviroFit G3300 retails for about $30 US.
And so tell me a little bit about the carbon offset. How does this work? And are you having to go out to outside, businesses and or is your dad probably pretty much has this already in place, right? This is just part of his portfolio now?
So there's a huge process in creating the offsets, and then there's a huge process in actually marketing and selling the offsets. In terms of creating the offsets, it's we work with UN-sponsored basically engineering firms, which are, they act just like a financial auditor. They're going to come in and they're going to check your books, they're going to check your sales records, and do spot testing in the field, do representative samples in the field of stoves that are in women's homes to make sure that the stoves are really saving what you're saying they're saving. And so there's a full audit process that you have to go through that's really strict and long and drawn out, but it also ensures quality and integrity of the offsets that we're creating. So there's that whole side of we call validation and verification of the offsets. And then on the other side, there's the marketing and the sales of the offsets that we create. And so basically the marketing and the sales is to, groups in Europe or in the States. And it's all, what we're creating right now is just voluntary. So it's kind of a part of a CSR, corporate social responsibility program, where they want to be more efficient and green and carbon neutral on their own accord, and yet they want to buy offsets from a project that's creating real benefit beyond just the environmental benefit.
So what are you seeing so far? Like, how many of these stoves have you sold, or not sold but installed?
Installed, yeah. So it's they're portable, so it's not necessarily installing the stoves, right. But basically, yeah, creating retailers and selling them. We are at I think just past like 30,000. I think.
Is that in 2 years or less than 2 years?
That's since November of 2010.
Oh my goodness!
Yeah, so it's actually it's our we far surpassed our projections in the first year of sales, which is great. I mean, the demand, we knew that there was going to be demand. We just didn't know how easily we were going to be able to tap into that and provide that. And at this point, it's kind of hard to keep up with the demand. And I think we'll do around 60,000 stoves by the end of this year.
Now, you have actually like a video or a movie out called The Stove Man, and I was watching the trailer of it, and it was showing women cutting down trees and then hauling these trees. I mean, that's impact as well. I mean, it's like a desert there. Like, I don't even know where they find the wood. But
it's amazing. It's amazing what these women go through just to cook. I mean, you and I can't. It's hard to fathom. And I've spent a few days, cooking over an open fire, collecting wood with these women, and it just kicked my butt. There's women that are half my size and they're carrying, more wood than I am. And it's amazing how much time they spend too. In those videos, women are spending, 30 hours a week just to collect wood, because they have to walk so far to cut down the wood. Then they got to collect it. Then they got to put a huge bundle on their back, carry it with ropes. It's painful, and they've got to walk all the way back. And then when they get home, it's like, okay, now we need water, or you got to cook, you got to do something. It's amazing how much time is actually wasted and just spent, and how much energy is spent just for these women to cook. It's astonishing, right?
Yeah, that's what I really urge everybody to watch the video, because my mouth was wide open the whole time, because I complain about how long it takes me to grind flour and spend 2 hours making dinner. This is nothing compared to what I'm complaining about. I'm like a princess compared to them. But the question that I had also is, but they still do have to collect wood. Is it such much of a less volume with these stoves?
Yeah, so the stoves literally use about half as much wood as they would otherwise. And so you think about 30 hours a week, 52 weeks out of the year, you cut that in half, and there's a lot of extra time that these women can, spend with their families, or, create some kind of job, do some kind of income generating activity. So it's really about how can we make the most impact now with the way that women are cooking, and then long term, it's an adoption curve, and eventually on the other side it's renewable energy or it's gas, but there's an adoption process to get to that point. It's really hard to get someone from an open fire all the way to cooking with gas or using solar ovens. And so
that was my question. How come you guys didn't go straight in with solar ovens? Just too much of a learning curve?
It's not necessarily the learning curve. It's that people just don't really adopt them, and it's really hard. They're just it's not very easy to use. I mean, technology is getting better in that arena, but the adoption is such a small percent right now that we really feel like we can make more impact by targeting wood users and just helping them be more efficient in their use of wood, because there's just solar cookers are just not, they don't create the same flavor that people want in their food, And, if you have a cloudy day, it's not going to work as well. And sometimes it can make the food mushy. It's just, there's tons of challenges in terms of adoption with solar cookers.
Now, back to the question about carbon offsets.
Yeah.
How does somebody, let's say, a company's looking for, this carbon offset, program, and you're just like even a little bit more than just the renewables, not to knock the renewable carbon offsets, but it's like you're really changing people's lives. You're changing women's lives. So one of the reasons why I wanted to interview you guys is because of it's more to me than just how to green the planet. You're greening the planet, plus you're helping somebody's life. And so how would someone contact you guys? How would they start? Where is it on your website that would say, okay, are you interested in partnering with us? Tell us a little bit about that. How do you partner with you?
Well, and I mean, we're huge believers in, this is a group effort. We're not going to be a small team and say, we're going to save the world by ourselves. There's absolutely value in numbers and by, mobs of people who want to change people's lives and improve the environment and do that in a sustainable way. And so we want people to be a part of the work that we're doing. There's a real easy, contact us at the bottom of every web page. You can also find that in the About Us section of our website. And so honestly, I encourage people to get in touch with us. We'd love to hear from people. We'd love to have you be a part of what we're doing.
Can individuals also like offset their travel through you guys if they want to, or is this just are you guys more geared towards big business?
Well, yeah, on the sales side of the offsets, it's geared toward big business and big companies or large buyers, because there's a lot of costs associated with creating a retail sales outlet of the offsets. Because I know Delta does that. They have offset your travel. Right. There's a bunch of companies out there, but for us, we're focusing on the larger buyers so that we can maximize the value and the returns from the project to communities, to investors, to foundations. So.
And tell me about the women that you guys are helping. What have you seen now since you've given them these stoves?
It's amazing how excited they are about these stoves. And actually, there's a episode 4 of Stove Man is coming out in October, where women are literally dancing and singing, and I'm walking down the street with them, dancing and singing because they're so excited about their stoves. And it's it's something. It's really hard for us to totally grasp and understand just how valuable it is to them. If you could give them, hundreds of hours back a year and make it so that they're not going to the doctor or having, asthma and pneumonia constantly because of all the smoke and the soot that they're breathing in, to give them more time with their families and, just make their burden a little bit lighter. They love them. They made songs and I was, dancing with them while they were singing songs about stuff that it blows you away.
How's it changed your life?
Oh, it's amazing. I'm so blessed to be able to go halfway across the world, and there's lots of communities in Kenya where I've been fortunate enough to go back multiple times. And even though I don't speak the same language, you have to always talk through translators. There was one lady in this little village called Turbi in northern Kenya, close to the Ethiopian border. She didn't know I was coming into town. She was 8 hours away on top of a dusty truck. And when she heard that I was coming, she turned around and came back. And it was just like when I started, it's like there's tears in my eyes, there's tears in her eyes, and we can't speak the same language. But it's just it's the biggest blessing I think in my life and in my job that I get to be friends with these people halfway across the world. So
now, are you only in Africa right now? Are you planning to go into Asia and South America? And what's the plans for the company?
Yeah, I mean, I think East Africa is so it's kind of a good and a bad thing. There is huge demand for these stoves in East Africa. And because we have such a strong base in Kenya, we're going to focus a lot on East Africa. But we're also going to be launching in Guatemala by the end of this year. And we've already been kind of laying the groundwork and doing due diligence with a partner in Guatemala called the Maya Foundation. So it's honestly, we want to go where the need is, but also, we want to be smart about that, because if we just try to go wherever the need is and spread ourselves too thin, then we're not going to be effective. So we want to make sure that we can go where the need is, but also really be able to sustainably impact that.
So where do you see the company in like 2 years from now? I mean, is there plans beyond the stove? Is there other plans that you guys have on the drawing boards that, you really want to come to fruition?
Yeah, I mean, honestly, I think it's really based around the concept of creating sustainable, social, economic, and environmental change. And that's not just stoves. We're implementing water filters in Kenya. We're looking at some solar lanterns and lighting and charging stations. So it's a lot of it is built around household efficiency, because that's where we feel like we can have the social impact on families and on communities, as well as the environmental. And if we're able to create carbon offsets, which we really have an expertise in, then we can create these sustainable and scalable projects.
Right. So that's what's so cool about what you're doing, is that you're actually self-funded in a way. You're not relying on people to give you donations. You're not relying on grants, and you're just doing it. And that makes it so much easier probably to find businesses that are saying, okay, I need to do carbon offsetting. It looks good. It's a great project. The one question that I have for you is, you're doing this whole video series on the Stovemen. Mm-hmm. What are you trying to do? Is this going to be like an ongoing, like Entourage type? Yeah, you're laughing. Like type of project. I mean, I assume this is being done to show the world what's really going on, and it's very well done, by the way.
Thank you. I mean, Austin Mann, who's the photographer, is incredibly talented, and he's a great friend, and it's really fun to be able to do it with him. And really, it was kind of an experiment. We wanted to be able to show, the issue and the work on the ground that we were doing. So it was kind of an experiment. My boss just came up with the idea and was like, "Hey, I think we should be shooting some, micro dirty jobs type videos in the field, and see how people respond to it." And really, the goal. I mean, there's multiple goals, but I think really trying to show the true face of poverty, and that these people aren't, you see in the videos, these women aren't laying on the ground with a hand out waiting for you to help them. They're working their asses off, every day to provide for their families and to cook, and, they're working hard. And so trying to portray that with dignity and respect and reality. But then also, to show our work, and also to encourage people to join us and to be a part of the work that we're doing. And that's the exciting thing, I think, about the Paradigm business model, is that we bring together investors and donors together to fund these projects. And what a donor actually does is elevates a community to investor status. So they're kind of stepping in on behalf of these communities in Kenya and making them an investor in the project, so that they're going to receive returns from the carbon revenues. And I really feel like it's kind of the donor 2.0 kind of model, where you can impact a family's life now, but also, build future equity and value for those communities.
I think this is an amazing product, and the business model is fascinating, how you guys put this together. I wish you guys the best of luck. I think that you guys are going to become a household name, because what you're doing is phenomenal. Again, everybody who's listening, there's not a separate section that says, be our partner, but it says contact us and contact Greg. If you want to be a donor or a partner, this is a wonderful project. It's a wonderful PR idea for companies, because the impact is it's staggering. And I also watched the trailer of the Stoveman, or the episodes, because it really was life altering for me. And that's one of the reasons I contacted you, because I was like, oh my God, we're so removed from all this. We have no idea. And I thank you and your founders for coming up with this idea. It was a pleasure to have you on the show, and I'm sure you and I will be talking from years to come. You're going to keep me in contact of all the things you're doing so I can let people know, and
Absolutely.
that's my job, is telling your story. So, Greg, it was a pleasure.
Anna, thank you so much. I really appreciate it.